And welcome back, one and all, to the Blue Rose Respite. It is wonderful to see you all joining me this evening for all the chills and thrills that are in store. I hope all of you have had a pretty good week so far. Mine's kind of taken a couple of unexpected turns, both goods and bads. Like, definitely last night was amazing. Like, oh my god, playing Cards Against Humanity with my subscribers on the Discord, just, you guys are insane. So much fun to play with. But a massive welcome to two new viewers that we have joining us. We have Vanderhoof, I have a feeling I know who you might be, and RTA2. Welcome to the Blue Rose Respite. Wonderful, wonderful that you could join us this evening. And quite perfect timing too, we're just getting started. And Fallout Kids 567 with another host. Thank you so much. Always very much appreciated. So how's the week been for you guys so far? It's been good? Hope it's been good. And hey, Pineapple King, how's it going? Welcome back. Great to see you. Yeah, this week I've just been so busy with my temp assignment and chilling out with you guys last night, which was awesome. And yeah, just trying to figure things out around my new schedule with my new assignment, but it's all good stuff. Ah. Well, I hope the rest of your week works out better, Vanda. I really mean that. We're all here to relax, unwind together, and have a wonderful time playing terrifying games. Oh, I hope you get your results back soon, Mortimer. That sucks. Why won't they just cough them up already? Hang on just a second, guys. Apologies for the slight delay. I'm just trying to figure something out because it won't go full screen. It's being a bit difficult. Oh, Fallout. I'm so sorry to hear that. He just got out of the hospital. Shit, I hope it isn't anything too serious. And congratulations, Bot Commander, on your graduation! So proud of you. Because you've been studying your ass off for your exams. Oh, and Shadowfang Pizza sounds so good right now. I had hastily gobbled down, what is it, like, I think it's Chinese food? I don't know, Wagmama. I had Wagmama for dinner. Pretty much just like rushing over here, ordering it on the walk home from the office. I don't understand why Steam is being so temperamental to me this evening. My sincerest apologies, everyone. Gonna get this running as soon as it stops being a butt. Okay, see you in a bit, Mortimer. Hope you cook something delicious. And if all of you remember where we left off last time, we were just wrapping up Zachary's story, where, through some sinister twists and turns, he found him had some interesting choices from the people in the chat. He unfortunately found himself at the mercy of the ghost of Ermengarde Mansion. His fate yet to be seen, but we're quite sure it isn't very good at all. But as Zachary's chapter comes to a close, we open up a new chapter with the wonderful Marianne McCulloch, the interior designer for the Ermengarde Mansion, as we embark on her side of the story, where she has complicated feelings surrounding her relationship status, and on one evening after celebrating a friend's engagement, she finds herself sitting across the bar from the one and only Luke Wright. And that is where we left off last week's events. So, to fit the mood, got myself a lovely glass of wine here, and let's see how this goes. Oh. The delivery person was plenty filling, but I'm only sates my hunger for about half an hour or so. Hang on. Bugs being annoying. Anyway. Let's continue, shall we? Judging by the way his flushed face and the dazed look in his eyes, he's as pissed drunk as I am. But whereas I feel like keeling over, he looks like he's still ready to take the catwalk by storm. Really, he just has the air of one of those men who think they own the world.
Hello there, sexy. Please don't stand up on my account. I already like what I see.
Oh, we're off to a great start tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Fancy a drink? It'll be on me.
But then again, I might be pleasantly surprised if he proves me wrong.
Want some between the sheets? Sex on the beach? I'm talking cocktails, of course.
Of course you are, darling. Fat chance. But it doesn't matter. We both know how to play this game. And there are two different ways for the night to end. One thing or another is going to happen. The question is, what do I want to do?
Oh no, that's fine. I'd rather order some blue balls or some AMF if you don't mind.
He looks like he's about to say some witty retort, but stops himself and downs the rest of his whiskey. That, my good madam, is not whiskey in his glass, and he should not be downing it. I order a mint julep. He gets another whiskey, and we start the customary small talk. Oops, sorry. Of course, the saying, "Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies," goes without saying. We ask nothing about each other, offering up falsehoods to establish strenuous, fake connection between two strangers at a pub, if only to pass the time. Whiskey, as I have come to call him, is a supposedly 21 years old, single, takes care of his sick mother, and is a manager of some sort. Manager of what? I didn't care to listen to the details. Meanwhile, Mint, as he has come to call me, is 29 and I'm... What did I say I was again? Oh yes, I told him that I was a professional chocolate taster. Because fuck it, if I'm going to lie about what my job is, might as well make it fun. It's a pretty decent chat between two pretty drunk strangers. And maybe it's just me, but we might as fucking well expend the tiniest amount of effort in pretending there's something meaningful in this meeting. Would have been nice too, if it was just left at that. But during a lull in the conversation, he brings it up.
You know, I've never been with a woman taller than me.
And to think he might have been different from the rest.
Never have and never will, whiskey. Can we go back to the history of chocolates? Did you know that chocolate candy was introduced in 19th century England as a healthier alternative to alcohol?
St. Lucy was the most beautiful woman of her time. She had men come from the four corners of the earth just to see the pure light of her exquisite green eyes. I really hope that his leg's gonna be okay. Like, shit, Fallout. I just feel so sorry for everything that you and your family are going through. I really hope your cousin's gonna be okay. If she were so lucky, anyway. Oops.
No, enough of the history lesson. Come on, Mint. You know and I know what you came here for.
Though not every suitor was gallant, and she was no fool, she had known that sooner or later she wouldn't be able to defend her chastity.
Come on. There must be something that gets you going.
How many women have you slept with, Luke? Do those lines seriously work on them? Just, okay. So she had taken out a knife and gouged out her own eyes.
There is something, but I don't think you can handle it.
Impressed with her devotion, God restored her eyes and made them more beautiful than before. He has a peculiar sense of humour, hasn't he? Because that only meant suitors kept going after Lucy, and she kept her eyes in a chalice to scare them away.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I can handle whatever it is.
Saint Lucy, help me. Help me turn away from sin. Help me with my own blindness.
My place isn't too far from here. I won't take care of you if it ends up being too much for you. And no one will be able to hear you if you try to scream.
Is that a promise, Marianne?
You sure you want to go down that road, pretty boy?
Wouldn't have it any other way.
The best thing about having my condo so close to the pub is the ease of access. As long as I can still stand and walk, I can make it home. Maybe I'd need help from a kind neighbour or two to help me get with the last leg if I've really gone overboard with the alcohol. But I always made it home. Sometimes with company. Of course, that always comes with complications, especially with the real clingy ones. But it isn't anything a good tip about stalkers to the building security can't fix. I'm always nervous though, even if this isn't the first time I've done this. And the first few minutes when we enter my room are the first few agonizing minutes when I try not to panic. Okay, Mac. So far so good. Don't let him smell your fear underneath all the liquid courage. He'll leave sooner or later, and I'll never have to see him again, just like every other man before him. I'd like to say to myself that the men I've brought to my place were more scared than I was. Yet there is no fear when I look into Whiskey's eyes, only delight. When he starts touching me, I don't even hesitate when I push him against the door. Roughness is to be expected. And as long as he sticks to the script, everything will go smoothly. We'll have our little tumble in the sheets. He'll leave, we'll forget about it. Somebody asked what I really wanted. I would have told them that I wanted a bed of roses, chocolates and music, maybe in an Irish castle. But all I really want is her, and that's never going to be a reality. That was my fault, of course. Because I was afraid. Because I was a coward. They would never hold a candle up to her. She was the light of my life. And I let her go. I can't even be bothered at the thought of her. Just the single thought of her makes my resolve to see this affair through waver.
Wait.
What is it now?
Yes, what is it now? What's going to be, Marianne? To sex or not to sex? Okay. 1, Luke's an asshole. 2, she really doesn't want to do this. Like, she's drunk for liquid courage, but for her entire monologue, she does not want this, so... Yeah, I'm not going to force her to do something she's not going to be comfortable with, so yeah, this is wrong.
We're both drunk.
And...
This is wrong. Don't you think it's a bit fucked up that we're about to have sex and we're just calling each other by the drinks that we had? How messed up are we?
Doll, shut up with the ethics and morality talk. It is seriously putting me out of the mood.
Again, say it with me, chat. Fuck you, Luke.
If you want to leave now, Whiskey, I understand. I mean, with how smashed you are, it'd probably be best for you to sleep the night unless you want to be mugged. But I won't stop you. And this isn't going to happen.
Bloody hell.
Of course, he's annoyed at me for putting off our night of sexual congress. But no means no. And beyond spewing a few profanities under his breath, he surprisingly simmers down soon enough. I was worried for a moment that he might try to force something. Instead, he makes a show of fixing his suit and smoothing down his hair, before making himself comfortable on the nearest seat he could find.
What are you doing then? You have a guest in your home. Put the damn kettle on. Dandelion tea if you have it. But I suppose all you have are those shitty tea bags from the store.
If it isn't for the absurdity of this turn of events, I would have flipped him off for thinking I have no taste. But in the end, I just laugh. All I got are cans of Korean ginseng and lemon balm, though. No dandelion. Without a second thought, I do wet the tea. It's 3 minutes to get the kettle to a boil. 3 minutes where we say nothing to each other. I mean, what do you even say to the guy I was going to sleep with until I changed my mind? I doubt he's in the mood to talk about the influence of Troy's on Mallory. It's still unusual by the time we're both seated on my bed with mugs of tea in hand.
Just so you know, whatever is going on right now is a lot stranger and fucked up than the one night stand.
We are two messed up individuals by your logic.
Also, hurrah for Mortimer, he has acquired food. And you're absolutely most welcome, Fallout kids. This is a chat and a community where we're all here to support each other, relax, unwind, and enjoy streaming and playing games together. So I'm just glad that we're able to help you in your time of need.
Everything is messed up, if you ask me. War, terrorism, famine, poverty, loved ones and loved lost. Oh, this whole world is a cesspool.
The dead air is telling when it fills the room once more. One would think that this is the perfect time to burst, to spill about whatever issues that made us fucked up, the fucked up person that we are today. And it is. But I guess some part of me would rather not put the weight of my problems on someone else's shoulder. It wouldn't be fair to leave that to a person when I don't even know if we'll ever see each other again. Sooner rather than later, we both pass out on my bed, mugs left forgotten on the floor. When I wake, whiskey is already gone. A bottle of painkillers and a note on the table are the only evidence that I wasn't alone last night. Okay, that's actually kind of nice of you, Luke. That's, okay, maybe a little bit less of a bastard for doing that, okay. I don't even question where these are from, or just how he knew my real name. I'm just grateful for something to help with the hangover. Might as well. I have a job to do. It isn't often that I think about drinking on the job, but after meeting with the Wrights yesterday, it really makes me want to break my self-imposed rules. Because first off, fucking damn whiskey was fucking damn Mr. Wright. And to top it all off, they had somehow forgotten to inform me that they didn't own the Ermengarde mansion yet when they hired me. What? What sort of person does that?
Ugh, rich people.
I could do nothing but twiddle my thumbs at this, however. Twiddle my thumbs and wait for the go signal. It's not like I can accept other smaller projects. This is a big job and I should be ready to start on it at any time. Not to mention that my PA practically begged me to be patient and wait this out. It was a hard decision to agree, but I did so in the end. Besides, I'm doing this for the Ermengarde mansion, not for anything or anyone else. I have a headache whatever I do anyway. I'd go to the pub again, but seeing what happened a few days ago, I'd rather not end up in bed with another potential client. and it might be a huge leap in logic, but a library is the next best thing after the pub. I have to go there anyway. I need more books. For Dad. Plus, I also need to return the ones I borrowed last time. Finding a new book or two to read for myself while I have nothing to do isn't such a bad idea either. So on a Saturday morning, I find myself going to the only library in Luxburn to, hopefully, cool off. It's totally fine. Like, I'm just flattered that I'm in your top 4. Trust me, it's more than fine. Don't worry. After returning in it... Apologies if I butcher these names. After returning in Irresolute and a poetry book by Henry of Poed Brady, I asked the librarian about the several titles on my list, though I don't have much luck on that front. Dialogue with Death has already been snatched, and she bluntly said that she did not keep our mathematical universe for someone who didn't return books on time. I make headway at last when I ask about Siege and Rendition of Havana by Jacob de Pozuelo. Apologies. If you count her snarling and pointing at the history section as headway, that is. The history section is devoid of any other except for myself and a redhead, though I'd wager a guess that Red's just passing by to get to the classical literature section. So many books, so little time. Scanning the books and seeing so many wonderful titles gives me great pleasure. And that's when I spot it.
Hello, sailor. Why don't you come to Mama?
It's not the naval battle book I was looking for. No, it's even better. The newly acquired History of Luxburn Architecture. First edition, too. I know I just have to get it. I have been waiting to get my hands on this book for so long. The fact that there is only one copy proves to be a problem, though, when Red reaches for it at the same time as I do.
I think I had this first, miss.
Hey! Hello, you. I can only stare her down when she refuses to let go of the book. Refusing to let go of it as well, I raise a brow at her in the hopes that the fact that I was significantly taller than her would intimidate the girl. Even then, she refused with a rebellious look.
This isn't exactly light reading, miss. I mean, do you even know which architect was at the forefront of 18th century Irish architecture?
A beat. She blinks and I can't help the smirk on my face, which is wiped off when she opens her mouth.
Edward Lovett Pierce, who established the Palladian style through his work with Castletown House and the Irish Houses of Parliament. This bridge was destroyed in this year to delay French troops while under the regency of Mary of Guise.
This is not what I was expecting. Let's be honest, how many people would know these history facts? Aside from me, anyway.
Going right to the obscure ones, aren't you? Easy enough. Tullybody Old Bridge in Clackmannanshire, Scotland, on the January of 1560, if we want to be specific.
Suddenly, it's a game where we throw these history questions and facts at each other, back and forth, in hushed tones unless we want to be thrown out of the library. After a while, it goes from some strange competition into this strange but friendly banter, if it could be called that. But as fun as it is, the exchange soon slows down until we're grinning at how odd this whole scene is.
Marianne McCulloch, my desire for potatoes doesn't quite match what the stereotypes suggest.
Rebecca Gales, the Scots' supposed hatred for the English wasn't enough to stop me from teaching their little spawns.
By then, we'd forgotten about our little tug-of-war, although she still holds the book in her hands. Hey, Garrett! How's it going? Welcome back. Great to see you. Help me keep these people under control. They're being way too polite and well-mannered tonight. It's kind of unsettling. I let go of it without realizing when she answered my first question.
History teacher, then?
Got it in one.
No wonder you gave me a run for my money. Now, if we're talking about architecture, I'd blow you out of the water. You're from where? Luxburn Uni?
Oh no, just St. Goretti's.
Ah yes, St. Goretti. You'd think a school would choose a more appropriate saint to name themselves after, especially when they have very young students.
And I'm guessing you're an architect, if you're so confident about the subject.
Interior designer, Miss Gales.
Please, just call me Rebecca. You aren't one of my students, are you?
Marianne, then.
I could have said that I was an architect, but there's no point in explaining why I wasn't one anymore.
So, I've never seen you before. I'd like to think I've met every history aficionado in town.
I blame the rock I've been hiding under, of course. That, and I'm usually only here on the weekdays if time allows. Work often has me meeting clients on the weekends.
That must be interesting work.
It allows for some creative freedom, sure. But it's like working with children sometimes. Though you probably have it harder working with actual children. The hardest part is convincing them that your idea is their idea.
That sounds exciting.
It is!
But isn't that true for any workplace, though? We just cross our fingers and hope there aren't any man-children in charge of important things.
I'll definitely have to check them out for all our kids. Thank you so much for the recommendation. I'm sure they're amazing if they're in your top 4.
Any big projects right now? I can't imagine that interior designing is a frequent thing.
I'm working on the Ermengarde mansion. Lucky me. That mansion. Wonderful. Breathtaking. I can't wait to start in it. Now that is beautiful architecture.
A pause. It looks like she wants to say something at the mention of the house. I'm not surprised. That place is certainly popular with the locals, especially with the urban legends attached to it. In the next second, though, she seems to think better of it and drops what she's about to say.
So, do you have a portfolio or anything I can take a look at? I'd love to see your designs. Maybe you have some on a tablet? I've met some designers before, and they're always going crazy over these virtual room apps or another.
A tablet? Please. Callicrates didn't need those silly eye-tabs when he built the Parthenon. I certainly don't need one to design a house.
The computer back in my place is all I have. Why should I buy such an expensive gadget that will just get outdated within the year when what I have is just as functional? The traditional ways had a far more personal touch in my opinion, not to mention those smartphones are awful tools of procrastination. Wouldn't know anything about that. Hey, welcome back, bot. Oh, sisters, am I right? Yeah. I hope she's doing well. And fuck touchscreens. They're evil things that make typing, what should have been a simple task, harder.
I do have an online portfolio if you'd like. I can...
Speaking, or rather, or thinking of the devil seems to have summoned it, because before I can even carry on, Rebecca's attention wanes as she pulls out her mobile. Oops. For what I can only assume is a call, she gives me an apologetic look before she stands up and excusing herself. Before she stands up and excuses herself. Our farther into the aisles she goes, for some privacy. I do my best to give it to her as well, trying to tune her out.
Belle, is something wrong? Lunch at the coffee house? Sure, I can make it. I'm not too far, I can be there in 10.
But with how quiet the surrounding is, she can't blame me if I overhear snippets of her conversation. But when she returns with a sheepish look on her face, I know that our friendly chat has to be cut short.
Sorry, I have to go and meet with some friends.
It's fine. Totally fine. No need to even apologize.
About the book.
Her embarrassment increases twofold when she realizes she's still holding on to a history of Luxman architecture. I don't give her time to think about it, as I put a hand up and shake my head. Fishing out a pen and paper from the bag along with one of my business cards, I hand them over to her.
You know, I'm busy with work, so I might not even be able to take a peek at it anytime soon. You can go ahead and have it. But you'll have to ring me up when you're returning it just so I can snag it right away. Deal?
She makes quick work, penning her number down and handing it back to me with a grin.
Deal. Just message me during school hours, of course. You have a good day then.
You too.
With Rebecca gone, I'm left alone, standing in the history section. Although my original plans were simply to sit down and read a good book, Our little pop quiz, if you could call it that, made the time pass by without any of us ever realizing it. It was fun, and I do believe I made a new friend. Good job, Marianne. Even with the talk of lunch, however, I didn't feel like grabbing a bite to eat. Valtharis! I'm not sure if you've been here before or if you're completely new, but welcome to the Blue Rose Respite. Glad you could join us this evening. Everyone in the chat is wonderful and friendly, so feel free to relax and unwind with us. Did I just say unlax? Relax and unwind with us. There are still other books to be read here, and I'm hoping to find something that will help me while I work with the riots. Something like How to Deal with Assholes Professionally 101, just in case. I've dealt with a lot of uppity, snooty and rich clients before, but it's still better to be safe than sorry. Because Luke Wright just takes the fucking cake. And he probably manages to eat it too. It seems the world is conspiring to keep me from my me time, as my mobile vibrates in my pockets the moment I find something from the shelves of classic literature section.
Marianne McCulloch, Charlie Rose Design speaking.
Rose Cooper here, Miss McCullough. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time or anything, but I just wanted to check in and tell you that we've got the clear to hand over the documents. Madam Wright told us that we should forward the floor plans to you.
Already? How did they go through the process so fast? Yes, my English is exquisite as always, especially today. I think it's just because I'm tired from work, so I'm slipping a little bit. Apologies about that, everyone. Surely there is so many red tape to even acquire the forms in the transferring of rights. No matter how rich the rights are, it shouldn't be this quick, right?
So, if I can just have your email, I'll be sending them your way.
Kimmy-kun with bits! An amazingly generous donation of 90 bits! Thank you so much! It's really, really appreciated. Thank you. Sorry, just have to fix something. Kimmy-kun, you're amazing. Thank you. What's up is that my words are a little bit all over the place this evening because I'm kind of pooped, but that's okay. Get better and better as I drink more wine.
I'd actually like a physical copy of the floor plans.
Oh, I suppose that's fine. I'm not at the office right now, but I can inform Miss Santos of your request.
I'll make sure to drop by the office after lunch if that's fine.
Ah, okay, fair enough. It's all good. Valtharis, I really like the new name. It suits you perfectly, my dear. Awesome. Because I know who you are, and I can say it out loud, and I don't care if I'm saying it on air. Safe travels, and I'll see you in a few hours, okay? It's going to be okay. We're in this together. And I've always got your back. Don't forget that. Everyone, say hi to Valtharis. They're an amazing, amazing, amazing person, and they deserve so much love and happiness. So send them a little bit of love their way. But seriously, safe travels, and I'll see you in a bit. Take care.
Not a problem. Right. Well, cheers.
Right. Cheers.
I don't know. I just don't. Is there some sort of deeper miscommunication when we last met? These things take time. It's been what? A day? Less than that, even. There isn't even a point in trying to make sense of these people who seem to be larger than life. Oh, whatever do you mean, Valtharis? I have no idea what you're talking about. As it looks like I'm on the clock starting today, I might as well eat. Grabbing some fish and chips from one of the street food stalls, I find a table to spend time with a copy of Marquis de Sade's The Crime of Love, since Rebecca left with the book I wanted. Sorry, I just kind of had a little bit of mental blank, but you guys are incredible and I love you. Welcome to Steph Playing Games, where a bunch of assholes watch and pretend to be nice. You guys are nice. We're just assholes in our terrible sense of humor. But it's always nice to read through it again when I don't have the time to enjoy something new. Besides, when you're dealing with people so filthy rich that they just end up plain filthy, you need a copy of good old Marquis' sound advice.
La blessure se trouvant sans aucune sorte de conséquence.
The wound being without any consequence. Of course, it's folly to think that things have no consequence when everything actually does. Okay, I might have, like, misplaced Valtharis for someone else. Apologies if I did. You guys are so cryptic. You're always changing your usernames. It's hard to keep track of you guys. Of course, it's folly to think that things have no consequence when everything actually does. Briar Realty Corporation's Luxman branch isn't too off from the city centre, just a few blocks away, and I can easily eat and walk. I'd rather use this time to rest before I go into a flurry of activity. No doubt there'll be so much to do once we get hands on the mansion.
Still a lot better than working on another condo, at least.
Surely, no matter how much BRC and the old owners put into the restoration and preservation of the place, any big repairs would be superficial at most. I'm quite certain that, in their haste to sell the property, they did a rush job. It isn't an infrequent thing to do, despite how it is frowned upon. Ah, okay, Valtharis. Okay. Valtharis is a wonderful name. I really like it. There'll be a lot of hidden issues that I'll need to weed out, and I have to make sure I find every single one of them, especially the more serious damages. Structural integrity is definitely on top of the list we will have to consider. The building might look sturdy, but it is centuries old. That alone will likely pose a few problems here and there, put limitations on what we can do. Besides, despite how much I detest these rich snobs, they can pay rather handsomely, as long as I do an excellent job and do more than necessary. Those two things always made sure the referrals keep coming. I don't even have to hunt down projects for myself. When I do go up to BRC's office, I can't help but stop and stare when I enter the building. With the lunch hour closing, employees should have been back already. They still aren't filtering through the doors. I get that it's a Saturday, but people probably feel tired and lazy to be working on a weekend. But they're still on the clock, and not bumming about, wasting company time on extended lunch breaks and cigarette sessions. The office is spacious, and it is as it is with these big corporations. Each person is given their little space off what's usually a 2x2 meter cubicle. There is a lot more empty chairs than there are actual people working at their desks. It reminds me far too much of my last day at Prorovska projects. But apologies for butchering that. During the massive layoffs due to the Irish economic crisis. But it isn't just that, though. Everything's as quiet as the grave, as if these people are merely ghosts. Speaking of ghosts, Santos comes in through the door, looking as if she's just seen one. So that's how that lines up. Huh, that's cool. She looks at me wide-eyed like a deer caught in the headlights, ready to bolt at any moment. I'd ask out of concern, but I feel it's not my position to do so. What if it's something personal? I'd simply be overstepping my boundaries. Really, it's none of my business.
I presume that Miss Cooper told you why I'm here, Miss Santos?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just got back from lunch, you know? But it won't take too long, don't worry.
Of course it won't. This whole project has established itself to be a matter done in haste. I do hope it doesn't mean that people are being careless in their duties.
She flinches and looks like she doesn't quite know how to respond to that. Thankfully, instead of opening her mouth, she leads the way towards her station and goes to fetch the floor plans. It won't take too long, as she said, but it does take a bit. Time spent to compose herself, most likely.
You know, we usually just email these things.
I prefer the real thing.
Not that you would know. Probably have your nose stuck in front of a smartphone when you're not working, and even when you should be working, playing those mindless, addictive games. I definitely wish Chris would stop playing that Batcat thingy during work hours too.
I know what you mean. Digital painting is nice, but nothing beats the smell of real paint. Not that I go and smell paint like a crazy person, but, you know, the real thing is different.
Wait, what?
Yes, nothing is quite like the real thing.
Everyone's got such cool backstories behind their usernames. Like, Valtharis is a really cool name for a D&D character. Really befitting of a high elf. And Denrose is the healer who's sick of all the parties shite in Star Wars The Old Republic. I should start playing Star Wars The Old Republic, but I'm waiting for Fallout 76 to come out for playing an MMO. My username, it's kind of a long story, so if someone asks it in a Q&A video when I'm asking for questions, if someone asks for the meaning behind my username, then I'll explain it just because it's kind of long. But yeah, there is a meaning of sorts behind my username a little bit. Checking out the floor plans, I see I have a lot going for me. Now I know how Ray felt when he found the Central Park West building floor plans from that one movie. This is why I became an architect in the first place. Jacobean style at its finest. A thing of beauty. Look at these gorgeous rooms. The delicate harmony between empty spaces. Speaking of empty spaces, there's something rather odd about these ones.
I feel a bit silly saying it out loud because I've never lived in a big house, let alone a mansion. But during the tour, I had the distinct impression that the rooms were bigger. Maybe the scale is wrong? It's not much of a problem, and it is an old house.
There have been little details, here and there, that I would have liked to address during the open house too. But it was all forgotten in the wake of Miss Santos' incident and the troubles with ownership. The wine cellar is going to be a problem. I shudder to think of what sort of repairs they did to the place. There might have been things that were swept under the rug, pushed to the dark corners of the rooms, and hidden away in barrels. Water damage could have been covered up. There had been floods due to heavy rains in West England just last year, after all, and if there's any sort of damage to the house's foundation, that's going to be a lot of work. I was not able to look at the attic as well. For all I know, a whole family of vermin could have made their nests there. Working with pest control is always the worst. The sheer size of this place is staggering, even if I did say it was a lot smaller than I thought. Might just be biting off more than I can chew, but who doesn't like a good challenge? First things first, I'll have to...
So, do you want a coffee? The one from the staff room is pretty decent.
There's really no need. I'm sure you have rules against it.
Rules against bringing someone coffee? That's ridiculous, and even if there were regulations against it, nobody's really here to tell Sir John. I've already brought 2 mugs, and I'm not going to drink them on my own. Come on.
I have to stamp down my annoyance at being distracted. Seeing the girl, the young woman though, it looks like she has a lot on her mind. If babbling is her way of dealing with stray thoughts, not really the one she should be babbling to. How should I respond? Marianne, be nice. She's clearly, kind of freaked out a little bit. Come on. I give her time to speak up. But when she just stares, I clear my throat.
Yes? You have something to say?
As embarrassment creeps up on her face, I snatch one of the coffees from her and take a sip. Too hot.
Just thinking and speaking off the record. It must be fun what you do.
I agree, Denver. Isabella needs hugs.
You go to people's houses and you make them, well, pretty. You're sharing your art with them.
It's a little bit more complex than that. But if you put it that way, it is fun. I wouldn't have done it for 7 years if it wasn't a little bit fun, I guess.
These big clients always have paintings in their homes. Do you have a supplier for art pieces?
I didn't expect to hear such a question from her, seeing how well she handled herself yesterday. I didn't doubt, then, why she was assigned to an important sale like the Ermengarde mansion, despite the little accident she had. Now she just looks too young, too nervous, and unsure of herself, although her enthusiasm must make up for that in spades. In fact, I wouldn't have believed it if she had introduced herself the way she is at this moment. Why, watching her now, she actually looks like she should still be in college. Acts a bit like it too when I think about it. Although, I thought she was a teen slumming it out in the mansion when I first saw her there, lying on the ground. Surprise, surprise, she turned out to be one of the estate agents handling the property. Don't even know what to make of that whole meltdown that happened with that strange document. If I were the client, I would have been very upset. She'd be in hot water for it.
The clients usually support artists of their own choice. If they don't, I'm always happy to refer those that I know.
That's cool.
They're very picky. I don't think a hobbyist will have an easy time getting their work sold.
Hey, I'll have you know I was a student of the fine arts.
And yet here you are, selling property. Maybe you weren't a very fine student of the arts.
Maybe I took that a bit too far. Yeah, you think, Marianne? She bites her cheek, and it looks like she's barely holding herself back.
It's not like I had a choice.
She mutters it under her breath. I barely even hear it. But the hurt is there. And it makes one wonder what brought it on. Although, it is understandable, if her reason's what I think it is, very few people will make it big in the art world. I agree, Bot Commander. Everybody needs hugs. I can see why she'd be upset about it with that enthusiasm. I didn't have a choice when I left Ireland. It was that or years of unemployment. The recession and the toll it took on the construction industry was out of anyone's control. Don't know what choice she was able to make, whether it was about her being at art school or something else. But the world isn't a fair place, and the sooner she accepts it, the better. Still, with that forlorn look on her face, I can't help but sigh. The girl reminds me far too much of myself when I was younger.
Well, if you're thinking of commissioning your paintings, I'll have to see your work first.
Oh, it's not... I didn't mean it like that. I don't have any paintings.
Really? You sounded a lot like you still did art or want to. Now I'm starting to worry that you might just like the smell of paint.
I'm not a paint huffer, sheesh. I just mean I don't make much anymore. I don't really have the time for it. The tools and materials aren't exactly cheap either.
Everything has a price. It sounds like you're making excuses for something you're presumably passionate about. If you really want to practice art, a little out of your wallet isn't much.
It's not that simple.
It's not? Life's simple. People just like to make it complex. Speaking off the record, I have some advice for you, kid. Either go for what you want, or stop thinking about it when you have something else. That is unless you enjoy making yourself miserable, then by all means.
You know, if you wanted to look at the floor plans without me bothering you, you could have just said so.
Would you have left me alone?
We'll never know now, will we?
A strained air settles in the room afterwards. It doesn't help that she doesn't immediately leave when she said, as she has said, lingering awkwardly by the door with that downcast expression. It's clear that she... Sorry about this, guys. My brain's kind of all over the place tonight. It's clear there's more she means to say, perhaps even to defend herself and her choices in life. Was she expecting me to dish out more of that advice? It's an awkward affair, and I choose to hightail out of the realty office as quick as I can. Though I'm able to keep myself professional at all times does not mean I like it. Seeing that most of the day has already gone by before I realized it, I choose to head back to my flat instead. Despite today being a Saturday. No fun, but at least this way I can definitely avoid another unpleasant encounter. Considering how much I'll be seeing whiskey in the near foreseeable future, I have a feeling I'll need the rest the weekend can give me. For the first time in a long while, excited as I am to work on the mansion, I cannot wait to be over and done with this project. Monday couldn't come any sooner. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before the last, I spent most of my Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices have been made yet, I'm quite sure that they'd want high-end appliances, the most expensive materials and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types, based from experience at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself, make sure I'm not playing with my gloves as one of the other building tenants takes the elevator up with me. It makes me self-conscious when the woman's eyes go over me, and I'm sure she was going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. Ha! But I'm safe from being paranoid when they went off a few floors later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. Rice lived at the very top, the penthouse, the creme de la creme when it comes to condominium, bleh, and urban living. Just getting access to the place is an ordeal of its own. I had to jump through so many hoops, so many security checks, just to secure a key card. Not only because of building management, but because of the Wright's personal security. Sometimes felt like I'm being interrogated for a crime, and not visiting a client at their home. Even when their personal assistant called in to help out and verify my presence, the process is aggravated rather than hastened. Speak of the devil. The elevator door opens and I'm greeted by none other than Whiskey's not-so-little lackey.
I do apologise if I kept Mr. and Mrs. Wright waiting. But I'm here now and I'm ready, so if I may, where are they?
They've just woken up, but they should be down soon. I'm surprised to see you made it through security. And only 5 minutes late.
You said I'd be through security soon, and it took half an hour. Define soon in this context.
I'd make myself comfortable if I were you. I'm going to go and put the kettle on.
About the tea, I don't want to intrude or anything.
The sir does not like being woken up by the whistling. But who am I to deny tea to a guest?
He shows me to the couch before drifting off towards the kitchen, quietly pulling out a teapot, cups and all sorts of other things in preparation for tea. I ignore the animosity towards his employer that his words implied. I wouldn't be too surprised if Whiskey's own people don't like him. Accepting the quiet and isolation instead, I brace myself for what's to come. In this case, soon apparently means more than 5 minutes, or even 10. I sit in their living room, just waiting. And when the kettle starts whistling and the tea has been served, I continue to wait. At least the silence is relaxing. But then there's a crash. I nearly spilled tea all over my lap in surprise, and I look up expecting security to come running. Even the man at the kitchen counter continues to fix breakfast like he heard nothing. I don't want to speak up about it because he looks far too absorbed in his cooking. I don't want to be the cause of burnt food or worse. However, there's something in me that just wants to figure out what that was, although I am normally not this nosy. What should I do then? Why don't we have a look what that bump was? The crash came from the hallway, and I really shouldn't be snooping about. But it's just concern. Yeah, concern that urges me to check it out. Sneaking a glance at the butler, I consider sneaking off, but...
Excuse me, but where's the loo?
He barely looks away before pointing a spatula towards the hallway. It's a good excuse as any. If I'm caught lingering longer than I should, I could just excuse myself and say that I wasn't sure which door led to where. Still, looking into the hallway reveals nothing. I don't see anything that might have caused the crash. The hallway, like the rest of the place, is in pristine condition. There are several doors that for not only the toilet, but also presumably rooms for their butler and for other members of the staff. As I stand there, however, something feels definitely out of place. One of the doors, the nearest within my reach, stands ajar, and from inside, a light flickers incessantly. It could simply be a light bulb that needs replacing. But the thought of it in a place so well taken care of seems odd, off. I think that maybe this is where that crash came from. Inside, I spy a radio lying on the floor. That's probably it, right? Maybe one of the help, in a hurry to get out of the room, knocked over it in the process. If that's all it is, I should really leave it alone. As I turn to leave, the sound of static fills the air, and a man's tinny voice interrupts the silence.
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th year dead.
Why am I still standing here?
Assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
This seems familiar, doesn't it?
Authorities are investigating the possibility of foul play.
Like I've heard it before.
Reporting from St. Samphins, Shane McLaughlin of Galway Bay, AM.
God damn it! Okay, that kind of got me. I recoil, backing away from whatever that was. In the process, I trip backwards on my feet, and I wait for the pain of falling flat on my back. But instead, I feel a hand on my back and see the smug smile of, well, guess who?
Oh, don't tell me you're reporting to work drunk, Mint.
Fuck you! Sorry. Of course, I know exactly who that voice belongs to. It just have to be him.
Marianne McCullough, hammered on the job? That would be something.
But
Wouldn't dream of it, Whiskey. You're allowed to be if you wanted, though it's a bit early for it. So thanks for the save.
really, it is much appreciated. Even though the circumstances during our first meeting were not savoury or wholesome, I can't bring myself to completely look at Mr. Wright in a bad light. Nothing came out of it, after all.
It's no trouble at all. I've been told I have a gift for catching pretty ladies, being a great catch myself.
So done with you.
Is that so? Would you say you'll be able to catch if another man were to pitch?
Perhaps, but I wouldn't know. I don't play baseball, Mint.
Right. Of course you don't.
I can't help but chuckle at my little joke, but it looks like it completely went over his head. If he had understood it, I guess it would have been inappropriate. He is my client, after all. Speaking of which, whatever little camaraderie I had with Whiskey is forgotten, however. I straighten up and glance behind him, only to find that he's on his own. Mrs. Wright is still absent. Okay, take care, Kimmy-kun. Hope your car gets fixed up quickly and safely. I hope to see you again soon, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. I still remember my place and why I'm here. To continue in such a manner with her husband would feel like a breach of trust between my client and I.
Since you are here, I don't suppose Mrs. Wright is on her way down? It is 10:30 after all.
She'll be down here in a moment. For now, you have me. Can't I just chat with a good friend?
I don't think a night where we talk like two drunk Egypts makes us good friends. And if you have any bit of sense, it's better to forget that night ever happened.
What? Why not? It was a good night, if a bit boring.
You know exactly why. We both know what your intentions were that night. And to find out that you're married? If there's even an ounce of decency in you, if you'd like the world to be a little less messed up, you'll remember your wife and what you almost did to your Mrs. Wright.
It's better to get that out of the way once and for all.
Well, no need to be such a killjoy about it.
The dead air between us, because it can't be anything else but that, is broken as a lively voice calls out from the loft.
Marianne! I hope I haven't kept you waiting too long. I know we agreed we'd start at 10 o'clock, but mornings just simply do not agree with me. Not one bit. It's been like this since I've been in university.
It's 5 minutes to 11 o'clock. These high-end clients sure like to be fashionably late. I know, Garrett. His voice is so eloquently smooth and he's just so dashingly handsome. But his personality is complete shit. I'm used to it though, much like how I'm used to so many years of hearing people mispronounce my name. Besides, berating or correcting my client would be extremely impolite, and Marianne doesn't sound too bad when she says it. To be fair, it doesn't seem like she's late on purpose.
I see you're up, darling. You know, you could have woken me up as well. Were you showing Marianne around? Not that there's much to see. This place is so tiny compared to the mansion.
I'm more worried about the way she stares at me, judging. Such a look. Doesn't suit her pretty face at all. Just seeing Mrs. Wright reminds me too much of her. Maybe I'm starting to hear her again, see her again when I shouldn't. Should have left it all behind, forgotten it. To think she would be looking at me that way, I can just feel my hands tremble.
Oh yes, just showing her around and getting to know each other. Isn't that right, Marianne?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, just checking something. Yeah, if you're coming into the story like, what is this? Chapter something. It's probably a little bit confusing, but there's still like lots of confusing gaps that get filled in later on, so many questions to be answered.
And your butler was making breakfast a while ago. So if you want to get right to that...
Breakfast would be lovely.
There is no denying the clients when they invite me over to their table. Though it is too personal to share a meal in their home, it would be terribly rude to deny their invitation. No, god damn it! The gorgeous food pictures continues to torture us. Now I want pancakes. Hearing Luke say anything is like headbutting a belt sander. It's just the character's personality. Like, the voice actor's extremely talented. He's extremely talented in the way that he makes you just fucking loathe the character just so much. Besides, the pancakes did look and smell heavenly. A bowl of clotted cream, fruits, syrups, jams, and other spreads are laid out next to them, making for a colourful arrangement. If this is a brunch with friends, I would have gladly helped myself to the whole lot. But as it is, I accepted just a few pieces of pancakes and topped it off with lemon and sugar.
You know, I was a tiny bit serious when I said I wanted a helipad.
And you're not serious about the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables?
Well, I do want those too, but I know you'll agree to those.
We're talking about interiors here, honey.
I demand you take that back, Fallout kids. Pancakes are amazing. Although waffles, I would argue, are sometimes a teeny tiny bit superior if they're freshly made.
You don't handle exterior designs and whatever handles those sorts of projects, do you, Marianne?
I'm able, actually, and willing to take a project of that nature. I was an architect in Ireland before. Of course, that's another contract entirely. I also suggest we finish the house itself before working on any additions to the rest of the property. There won't be any problems about ownership this time, will there? Pardon if I'm crossing a line, but the acquisition was rather quick.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got everything sorted this time around. I've talked to Miss Cooper and Mr. John from BRC, oh, as well as the old owners. Everything has been paid in full, and all we're waiting for is the paperwork from the land registry. They're letting us move in as soon as we please. It's not like they were living there in the first place.
That's good to hear. The problems that could arise from renovating another person's home would be... well, let's not dwell on it. First off, we'll want to know how you want the place to look. It's pretty furnished as is, but I understand if you want to modernize the whole thing.
Actually, I'd prefer to keep the place looking as it is, but at the same time, I want modern appliances. You worked on the Ludgate's Christchurch summer residence. I do remember there being an oven I thought was a simple drawer before. Make them look vintage, antique, blend in with the rest of the decor.
Customize appliances then. I can't find someone for that, and if you can't tell me what you specifically want, it'll hasten up the process. We're talking about electronic appliance manufacturers. If you have a preferred brand to work with.
Splendid! So, what is next on our agenda? All the other interior designers we've hired in the past did not have us this involved.
I stop. What sort of half-baked designer did that? If I knew who they were, I would have words. This isn't the time or place for it, however. Instead, I use this brief pause to pull out the floor plans I brought with me.
We'll have to figure out what you want to do with the rooms. Here, we can have a quick run through.
What is that little room next to the master's bedroom?
Oh, as far as I could tell when I saw it, it's a second bedroom of sorts. Used, apparently, for the ladies-in-waiting who has served Lady Charlotte Ermengarde, which is strange, as that isn't the norm for these sorts of houses.
Well, we're not stuffing Johans in there. He won't fit. You don't suppose we could turn it into a walk-in closet and a dressing room?
I love fashion, but do we really need to turn an entire room into a walk-in closet, dear? We'll have large closets and a wardrobe in the bedroom already.
Says the one who takes 3/5 of our closet. Well, what do you suggest we do with it?
I thought a utility room of some sort would be nice. A craft room where I can do fun things. Or maybe a children's room might be nice. You know, for when Kylie comes over. Or if Rochelle visits once she's had a baby.
1, you are not inviting that witch. And 2, there's a whole mansion for Kylie to play in. We don't need a children's room, and you don't even do arts and crafts. I'd like to turn the guest's room and the study into my personal office, by the way, if you don't mind.
You can turn it into a personal office if I can have my utility room. It's just the one room of the many. I'm taking that room for myself, no matter what you say, dearie. So you might as well take this deal. You're always out doing business anyway.
I don't think they originally... I don't know. I don't see into the mind of the designers, but there is something kind of hilarious about the name Ermengarde. Like, Ermengarde. It's an Ermengarde mansion. It's terrible.
The real problem is the theater. Whatever are we going to do with all that space?
Fine. We could turn it into our own personal cinema, I suppose. Might as well have it, if you plan on not having a telly in the parlor.
Yes, well, I don't want guests to be glued to the telly when they come over for a meal and some tea. By the looks of things, we can keep the rooms as what they are on the ground floor, though. The ballroom would be perfect for parties.
Do we really need a dining hall, though? I don't suppose we can't convert it into a garage.
What for? You can park your cars outside.
What about that room? Right there, in the northeast corner.
That's sleeping quarters for the household help?
Oh, that is perfect! Johans will be glad if we have other staff members who stayed in. It'd be convenient so they don't have to make the trip from Luxbourne to the mansion when they're needed.
You'll definitely need a lot more people to maintain a property of this size.
The mansion is really a lot bigger than I thought. Look at all these rooms. I didn't even know there was a music room next to the parlor because of what happened.
There was a grand piano in there too, when we checked during the tour.
Did you hear that, Luke? Maybe you can take up playing the piano again. Oh, you should have seen him when we were younger, Marianne.
It's not like I was very good with the thing.
Oh, Luke, you're adorable when you're embarrassed.
Oh, hush you. You were no Mozart, but I loved hearing you play nonetheless. He'd come over to my home and he'd play such fun tunes. He'd sing too and I'd dance and it was just...
Mr. Wright playing the piano. Can't imagine it. But the earnest way in which Mrs. Wright said so told otherwise.
Anyway, what do you think of these plans, Marianne?
Are we not even going to consider one of my requests? Not even just a closet or just a garage? Now, that isn't fair, is it? You're not the only one who's going to be living here.
I hardly see how that's unfair. I told you you're getting your office and your theatre, the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables. That sounds fair, does it not, Marianne?
That does sound very fair, Hannah. Mrs. Wright has her points, though I really didn't want to butt into the spat of a husband and wife. But with the way the two were looking at me to settle this, I might as well just keep to the facts instead of giving opinion.
Mr. Wright, your plan isn't quite feasible from an architectural perspective. I'm not even sure how much we can do without closer inspection. Well, the one about the garage, at least. A walk-in closet is easy enough, but the garage?
See, a garage isn't architecturally feasible, and it isn't going to be financially sound as well. We're already going to spend a lot on your other requests. You have several acres of land to park on already.
What? Did you calculate that on the fly? Financially sound my foot. You're probably just thinking up of imaginary numbers.
Might I remind you that I was a financial manager? I also looked over and approved the expenses of our other houses. I know the rough cost of these things by now, love. Masters in business administration, major in accounting. Sometimes I think you forget that I'm not as dumb as I act.
That catches my attention more than anything. Sounds more unbelievable than Whiskey playing the piano. She really didn't seem like the type.
Business administration and accounting? What university?
Lux upon you, of course. Go Lux Dragons, red and gold.
Excuse me, how about we move on this chit-chat ahead and do whatever else needs to be done sometime today? I had to cancel my appointments for this, you know. We might as well do a proper inspection with the designer this time, just to get it out of the way.
Yes, no time like the present. You want a thorough inspection? Might as well do it now. We actually took another look at the property yesterday, though it was brief. But I'm sure you would want to see it yourself, to spot anything we might have missed.
It's not like I have much of a choice, do I? Riding to the Ermengarde mansion on their rice is an awkward affair. Not only am I worried about scuffing the expensive leather seats, but I'm also worried about getting in the middle of another couple's spat. With the tension thick in the air, I can feel them starting at each other any time. Nobody is saying anything, up until Mr. Wright tells his valet to turn the damn radio off. And for a moment, I think he might start. But instead, he just stays quiet, and so do the rest of us. In the end, a sufferable silence stays. I've never been so glad to see a house. Stepping out of the car and up to the mansion meant the end of an uncomfortable ride, and I could finally take a deep breath of fresh air. The beauty of the place never fails to make me gaze in wonder every time I see it as well. Mrs. Wright moves towards the front door, keys in hand, and I already hear Mr. Wright plotting.
Alright, Hans, we're going to go in, but I want you to look around the place. Familiarize yourself with it. Know every nook and cranny, every inch of the lot. Go and see where we can put that vineyard and the other things we talked about. We'll want to know where to station security as well, so go around the perimeter and figure it out.
Scout the property and circle the perimeter on foot. You do know this is 46 acres of land, sir.
Well, you are not driving a car over the grass. Put those long, spidery legs of yours to good use. I didn't hire you to stand around and look intimidating. Go, mush.
Someday, I'd like to ask how Johannes can even stand to tolerate the man. Why doesn't he just quit? Certainly the pay can't be that good. Even I'm a bit put off by our mutual employer, and the only thing that keeps me from bailing is the fact that we've already signed a contract. At least I'll only be working them during the duration of the project. He works with them every day.
Sometimes I think you hired me to make me suffer for your amusement.
Someday, I'd ask. I feel a bit bad for him. If it's any consolation, he'll be away from Mr. Wright, if only for a little while. We're able to enter the mansion after a bit of standing out there in the sun. This wretched, strange sunlight that is far too alien and rare. There had been a bit of a problem, with the missus not knowing which key was which. The first item of the agenda would be the grand staircase. It seemed sturdy during the open house, but a closer inspection might say otherwise. There are no obvious marks of damage nor wear and tear, probably rethreaded during renovations. Peeking under the grand carpet, the wood is properly installed and the bark placed down to prevent cupping. The carpet itself could use a vacuum, though. Structural conditions, from what I can see without actually dismantling the thing, look to be in good shape, and the handrails and support posts are firm. The work on it should be commended. I can't look much more into the rest of the foyer, however, because Mr. Wright starts to hurry us into checking the dining hall.
So, what do you think? Certainly we can't turn this area into a garage.
It's Jacobean architecture. I'd say these would be pilasters and not buttresses, but you never really know. They really liked mixing up these elements. You could say it was pretty avant-garde at the time. We might hit a support beam if we're not careful.
And in layman's terms?
From what I see here, we could risk great damage to the house if we try to turn the dining hall into a garage.
The man didn't look too pleased at this. There's a look of disappointment before he sighs and looks around the place with an air of defeat. When he moves to speak, I dread another unreasonable demand. Again.
This will stay a dining hall then. But if I may have another request instead, at least spruce the place up with some flowers, some plants or something. It feels so old and dead in here.
That's hardly unreasonable. Daffodils are a must, I presume.
The look that passes between the two of them, there is a genuine look of fondness there. This is the first time I've seen such an exchange between the two of them. If anyone are to see them like this, there's little doubt that they loved each other.
Of course, and I want a garden full of them. Now, if you excuse me, I'd like to look at the rest of the house. I'll just be around here downstairs, if anybody needs me.
That leaves Mrs. Wright and I.
He's quite fond of them, you know.
I can imagine. He looked terribly upset when we told him he can't have his garage.
I meant the daffodils. We always have a vase full of them in every house we own. Somewhere, I'd like to think. They may be about his mother. He never talks about her. I don't even know her name. He likes to flatter, claim that they remind him of me, but he's always loved the flowers, even before we married.
Much like the piano, I didn't take him for a person who liked flowers. Daffodils least of all. What's next? Am I going to find out that Mr. Wright saves kittens from burning buildings?
I'll go and snoop about upstairs. You go and do whatever it is that you have to do.
And she goes without even asking if I need her here. I'm left standing to stare at the walls. Really, I don't need to do a thorough inspection of the building itself. It isn't really part of an interior designer's job. But the architect in me is committed to doing this task with every project. And if I'm going to make a living space that have both form and function, I might as well make sure that the entirety of it is safe for my clients. Since I'm already here, I roam around the dining hall to check things off my punch list, if you will. But when it's time to move on, I hesitate. Mr. Wright said he would be somewhere around here on the ground floor. I really didn't want to be alone with whiskey. I have to look through the space eventually, sure, but on the other hand, I can do it later, when he's gone. I can go upstairs first if I want to. Which floor should I go to first? Yeah, you don't want to be alone with Luke. Let's go to the first floor. I've already seen enough of this floor during the open house. Of course, I know that is just a convenient excuse. I just don't want to be in the same room as whiskey anytime soon. So I might as well go upstairs first. The banisters on the grand staircase's landing are solid and at a proper height. Any lower and they would be trouble. There's a small catch on the carpet though, but as long as nobody tries to run down the stairs until it gets fixed, things should be alright. And the stained glass? Art. Restored, no doubt, in the image of the last Lady and Lord of Ermengarde. Or it was supposed to be, till Lady Charlotte's fiancé was brutally murdered. By a witch of all things, from what I've read. You'd think the historians of this place would do a lot more scrutinizing, filtering out stuff like that. I'm amazed they bothered with it, instead of replacing it with some generic cookie-cutter design. This entire piece alone would have cost roughly $500, Even £1 million. Lady Charlotte Ermengarde and her beloved. Looking at the mosaic, it's not too far a stretch from the imagination to believe that the depicting images could be Mr. and Mrs. Wright. It can be easily assumed as such, if one doesn't know the history of the mansion. Hey, Deathbringer, how's it going? Welcome back to the Blue Rose Respite. Great to see you again. Things are going very well. Continuing Marianne's story. Really, a place like this should be protected by the government as a landmark. But what can I do about it? Walking into the East Wing, I tried to go into the theatre, but is met with an obstacle. The obstacle that is locked doors. 2 doors, both of them are locked. I'd be frustrated. Would be if I hadn't already snuck off while the Wrights were having their little business meeting with Miss Cooper before to take a peek. What Mr. Wright wanted, we'd have to install a powerful projector, the type they use in cinemas, and a projection screen. The seats would have to be reupholstered, there to be any comfortable, and the walls will have to be covered in dark material, paint, wallpaper, or instant wall-to-wall carpeting. Really, of all the rooms I could be jealous of, it's this one. I could just picture myself in there, watching old kung fu flicks on a weekend-long marathon. Makes me wonder what kind of movies Mrs. Wright would like. Rom-coms, perhaps? Her husband, on the other hand, I'd rather not think about it. In the middle of my notation and planning, I don't even realize that I'm not alone, till I'm caught standing in front of a locked door like a fool.
Were you meaning to go in there? I'm afraid we won't be able to open it up today.
Oh well, I wanted to, but it's fine. I can still survey the rest of the place.
Apologies, but the key was missing when they were handed over. They told us that they'd get right back to us with it.
What? But aren't they supposed to hand over all the keys once property changes hands? That can be grounds to file a complaint.
They were already kind enough to let us move in so early. There's no need to raise a fuss about it. Worst comes to worst, we can call for a locksmith.
The air is heavy and somber when she grows quiet and glances out the window, out towards the vast expanse that surrounds what would be their house. Their home. Then she looks back at me with a sigh and a bitter smile.
Flowers. Yellow flowers. Daffodils, dandelions, and sunflowers and the sort all up front. Just a whole garden of them. They'll make the house look lovely, won't they?
We are currently on Marianne's story. Marianne is the interior designer that's hired by the Wrights to oversee renovations to the Ermengarde mansion.
Of course. A garden is a wonderful addition to any home.
As I say this, her eyes roam over me, scrutinizing and thoughtful. I have to hold back the shiver that threatens to run down my spine at being inspected so closely.
Yes, it must be nice.
We're still talking about the gardens, yes?
I mean not having to worry about what another person thinks of you.
What do you mean by that?
She lifts her hand and points to her wedding ring before it falls listlessly to her side.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I didn't marry Luke. There'll be no fights about walk-in closets or silly helipads. I could do with this place as my heart desires until there's nothing but content. Then again, I wouldn't have bought this place if it wasn't a gift for him. I probably wouldn't even be in Luxbourne if it wasn't for him. Maybe I would have moved to London, Manchester, or Birmingham. I might have even left the country altogether. France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Sweden, even America. The possibilities would have been endless.
I don't know what to say to that. What is there to say?
I'm sorry, I must sound so petty and ungrateful. I do love him. So very much, even if he can be a bit difficult at times.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just confused why you're telling me this, of all people.
Just a whim, I think. Just flights of fancy, that's all. Don't you ever think about one decision you've made in your life and wonder how much would change if you chose to do things differently?
I try not to dwell on the past, ma'am.
The key word is try, of course. Thinking of the past brings up too many ghosts. Memories of her. I do wonder what would change if I just said yes when she asked for me. Maybe she'd still be with me. I return to the present. Just like I said, I try not to dwell on the past. There is still some semblance of love between them, so I think that one.
You must have been quite the pair, Mrs. Wright. Hannah Evans and Luke Wright taking Luxbourne by storm. At least, that's what I've heard.
Sorry. That gets a giggle out of her. And can I be blamed if I like the way her eyes crinkled, or how she sounded when she laughed?
Quite the celebrity couple, according to all the newspapers. But it wasn't always that way. Father certainly didn't approve of him at first. Why, he told me to stay away from him. Told me that I was too good for him.
Yeah, apologies if you hear a stomping sound. My neighbours upstairs are a little bit loud and I live in an old apartment, so the floors are quite thin, so that stomping might be them walking around. Apologies about that.
That's the usual overprotective dad speak, though. But of course you know that.
I don't. I was too busy keeping my grades up at boarding school to maintain my scholarship. Never mind the fact, I went to an all-girls boarding school, so father never had any reason to fuss over boys trying to date his little girl.
And what did you tell him? Considering you are Mrs. Wright now, you or the mister must have convinced him otherwise.
Yes, well, I told him I was my own woman and I could decide who was deserving of me or not on my own. Thank you very much. That never stopped him from making sure Luke couldn't get anywhere near me without an escort and a guard anyway. Though he certainly wasn't that overprotective when I was dating Jack.
Maybe your father considered this Jack a more capable man?
I doubt it. Jacqueline was nowhere close to being any sort of a role model when we were in college. She was rebellious, reckless, and immature. Everything I wasn't. But she was quite the charming, stunning woman, and I think that made her quite likable.
That takes me by surprise a lot more than by the fact that Mr. Wright's father-in-law didn't like him. That much was to be expected. But this? I have nothing against them because that's their thing, that the nuns and priests would say otherwise. Although, wasn't she worried about the implications? The rumours that would have arisen about her dating another of the same sex? Especially with someone of her social status.
You look surprised, Marianne. The first thing anybody needs to know about me is that I go after what I want. And when it comes to who I love, it doesn't matter to me whether they're a man or a woman.
It's a nice enough sentiment. Still, the thought that this lovely lady before me had once been with another woman... I could feel my cheeks heat up a bit and I panic, thinking they might be red enough for Mrs. Wright to notice. I can't tell, though a coy smile graces her lips.
Legs, we called her, because of how often she was running about because of one thing or another. Climbing up walls and... what do they call it now? Parkour. And also because of her, well, legs.
And you went after her?
Not right away. When I first met her, I wanted nothing to do with her. She was so improper and uncouth. But I slowly realized that didn't mean she was a bad person. On the contrary, she did many a good thing and was always so nice to others. I found myself confused. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to be her or wanted to be with her.
Fallout Kids 567 with another bit. Bye everyone, I have to go to the hospital and see my cousin. Thank you all for the kind words and stuff. Take care, see you on Friday. Take care, Fallout Kid. I really, really hope things get better for your family and especially for your cousin. Do take care and send them my best. You have our support and you have the chat at your back. Helping out however we can. Cool. Take care and hope to see you on Friday.
So I approached her, told her that I might have fancied her.
And your father didn't mind?
He must have thought it was my form of rebellion. But he never watched out for Jack as much as he watched out for Luke. If I didn't love my father so much, if he hadn't raised me right, I think I might have told him to bugger off. He's never been more attentive of me than when I started bringing home dates.
I'm sure he loved you very much.
She laughs once more, a glow about her. I know, she says with a small smile.
I suppose I've taken too much of your time with my silly stories. You still have much to inspect?
I still have most of this floor, and I'll want a quick run through of the ground floor again later.
I shan't keep you from your work any longer then. Just call me if you need anything. I'd like to look around myself.
When she turns to leave, she glances back at me before disappearing into the foyer. I look out the window from where she was standing, and I move on, alone with nothing but my thoughts and her.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Thought the old biddy would never leave.
It's utter madness, this hearing things. I reckon it's the stress, though I don't know what exactly I'm stressed about. If meeting Mrs. Wright has really thrown me for a loop, I'd be worried. If I'm developing some sort of psychosis or disorder, well, I'd call a doctor. But hopefully it isn't that. Not right here and not right now. I mean, it could just be that personal talking cricket, the conscience, so to speak, and I'm only noticing now. Although if it is, it isn't very helpful. Pushing the dilemma of voices in my head aside, I go back to work. But I can barely make it a few steps before everything tilts and shifts. I don't really stumble, but it feels like I'm being thrown off my feet, and the rest of the world just follows. Though my feet stay firmly on the ground, and even if I stay mostly upright, I feel like I've been heaved and put off balance. I have to close my eyes, in the hopes of willing the sudden sense of vertigo away, but when I open them... Well, I don't feel any less sick because of the sight that greets me. Blood drip from the walls and the ceiling, pooling downwards and seeping into the curtains and the carpet. A wave of nausea, stronger than the last, hits me along with the overpowering stench of blood and gore. I want to bolt. The irrational part of my head is telling me to flee. And I would have gladly done as it asked, if only I didn't hear her.
In here, Marianne. Come on, I have something to show you.
I could have ignored it, would have ignored it, if I only heard it in my head. But I swear that this time, it's coming from one of the rooms. Much further into the study. I feel compelled to pay attention. I can't just turn around and leave. Not when it's her. Don't even think as I follow the sound of her voice. Lorraine. Lovely Amanda Lorraine, the Inferno. She was my friend, the only one that I had at St. Sampan's. I was a scholar, in a charity case, in a school for privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down at me, if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except her.
Oh, stop your crying. You know better than to listen to Maeve. Why, I ought to teach that butterface a lesson.
Wait, no, lass! I don't want you getting into trouble with the sisters again!
Relax. It's not like I'm going to stomp her and her lackey's arses flat like last time.
Come on, let's just go back to our dorm room. I don't want to be on my Tobler while you go get yourself punished.
You'll be fine. Gip's there with you.
Lorraine was there when I needed her, through my highs and lows. Having her as a friend made being in a strange school, away from my father, all the more tolerable. She saw this poor, helpless girl who was kept down and shunned by everyone else, and, being the kind soul that she was, she rescued me. So brave, so beautiful. She was something else.
I'll eat all the chocolates stashed away in your closet if you go.
I can get more. Just don't go complaining to me if you get a tummy ache because of that.
Well, you don't want to get detention on a weekend, do you? It's a Friday. We can go to town and have some karaoke. And we can have a go at druids and demons again. You're not going to miss that just because of Maeve, are you?
Sometimes, I question what I did to deserve a friend like her. In the darkest corners of my mind, where traitorous thoughts lurked, I thought that she only felt sorry for me. Maybe she was just being a good Samaritan, offering a helping hand. And perhaps I had been too selfish to return the favor.
You have a point. I'll just kick her arse on Monday then. That's not what I mean! I know what you mean, Em.
Wait, where are you going? You just told me you wouldn't cause trouble.
I still have something to do. Don't worry, it's not like I'm going to burn down her dorm room or something criminal like that. I'm just going to talk to her. Maybe I'll make it so that her room smells like a dog's air biscuit. That'll make it an excellent weekend. I'll see you in a bit, Marianne. Lots of tumblers.
Because when she told me that she loved me, I couldn't admit that I felt the same way. Not to her, and not even to myself. It was wrong. I was taught that way. Husband and wife, one man and woman. Unclean, impure. I prayed for her and I, for our sins and for salvation. I wanted to apologize for disregarding her feelings so callously. It must have been like a slap in the face for her. But life had gotten in the way. Exams, which were trivial in hindsight now, took top priority. I had to keep my grades up to keep my scholarship. For my father. I told myself I would apologize to her when those were over, that I needed to focus first and not let anything distract me. It had been easy when she avoided me like the plague. She was upset. I get that. I thought I had the time to make things right, but...
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th-year dead, assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
They told us that it was just an accident. That was the official statement. But I knew better. She was dead because of me.
Maeve had a hoot and I kicked the bucket, didn't she? Ding dong, the witch is dead!
She had, though she didn't say which. Lorraine.
But at least Maeve had the courage to admit how she felt about me.
I don't even know how long I've been stuck here in a trance. In the mirror, Lorraine smiles at me. She's as beautiful as I remember her. But then, I feel bile rise up in my throat as her clean image warps into how she looked like when they'd found her dead, lying on the cold, hard ground. Good Saint Ifrina, great wonder worker in every affliction of mind and body, help me. I'm seeing things, hearing things. Am I going completely insane? Looking everywhere but at her, I hope and pray that it's enough to will whatever this is to go away. It doesn't even immediately register in my head that I can't just leave.
You, on the other hand, can't even look me in the eye.
This isn't real. You're not. You're dead!
I'm dead. Because of you. And you won't even look at me. Look at me.
My breathing quickens, and I can feel my heart being torn apart by her words.
I'm so sorry, Lorraine.
Look at me!
I can't take it because she's right. It was my fault. The least I can do is look at what I've done. Lorraine, broken and bleeding, looks at me with such hate-filled eyes. An unnatural smile stretches across her face, and I can only see malice in it. Then she lunges as the mirror ripples around her form, the glass parting like the water's surface for her. She grips my shoulders, and I feel her nails dig deep, sharp even through the fabric of my clothes.
There you are.
Ah, shit. Ah, shit! Come on, come on, come on, come on!
You love me!
Yes! Apologies spill through my lips as tears cloud my vision, but I won't give in to this madness. With every bit of strength I have left, I struggle to get away from her. Fear grips and threatens to choke me. I endure. I escape. And without turning back, I stumble back out. In my panic, I don't even care to look where I'm going. With one hand on the wall to steady me, I just hobble as fast as I can away from the study. Away from that mirror. Freedom is bittersweet. I'm free from the madness, it seems, as running out into the hallway reveals it to be in pristine condition. But it means I've turned my back on the rain. Again, I have no plans of stopping. Not until I know I'm safe. And if that means walking back to Luxburn, as ridiculous as the idea is, then so be it. Someone suddenly grabs hold of me, however. Fingers digging deep into my shoulder, and my heart nearly stops. My body seizes and I nearly scream.
Marianne, you look awful. I mean, not awful, but did something happen? Are you alright?
This is right. I...
Without thinking, I sought comfort, seeing that it wasn't her. It's a sudden impulsive thing to do, and had I been in a better condition, I wouldn't even dare of doing such a thing. Aw, see? Marion gets hugs. Marion gets hugs. But I didn't know what else to do. Though I know I shouldn't. Her warmth, her scent, they grounded me. She is intoxicating.
Marianne, what's going on? Oh, you're shaking like a leaf.
Tremors run through my body as soon as my mind realizes I'm no longer in danger. I wanted to cry, scream about what I have seen, but like a scared child, I couldn't control myself. My mind couldn't reconcile with what I had seen. I should just write it off as a figment of my imagination, yet I can still feel her nails cutting into my skin.
Are you sick? Should I call for a doctor?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Wright. Just feeling a little woozy and lightheaded is all.
Let's get you somewhere to sit down then. Come on, don't worry, I have you.
A lie. But a whole lot less complicated than telling her I was attacked by a dead girl. When the feeling of fear eases off, I feel nothing but shame for my actions. And I think on that note of bittersweetness, I'll end it for tonight, everyone. Oh boy, this chapter was interesting. We did not have sex with Luke, right? Because he doesn't deserve someone as amazing as Marianne. And she was so deeply uncomfortable. But little by little we find out all of the hidden pains and all the little dark nooks and crannies inside our characters' minds. But let's continue Marianne's story next week for another Woeful Wednesday. I should be streaming on Friday evening. I don't really have anything else that might be clashing with it, so I will hopefully see as many of you as possible on Fantastical Friday with another adventure in Starbound. So, thank you all so much for joining me this evening. If you've been hanging out in the background and you like what you've seen so far, consider hitting that follow button. We'd love to have you back at the Blue Rose Respite. You're always welcome here. And I want to thank all of you for the amazing bit drops. They've greatly appreciated. You guys are incredible, and I'm just so touched to have such an amazing, loving and caring fan base. I'm truly blessed to have you guys. So, absolutely feel free to peruse my many uploads on my channel. I record all of my streams and upload it to YouTube for those who unfortunately can't make them live, or just want to catch up or rewatch some of their favourite moments. So, thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I will see you guys on Friday. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, stay wicked and wonderful. Good night.